Hi, and welcome to our case study on how we were able to bring $1.2 million to a company by centralizing their purchases. In this case study, we'll talk about the diagnostic process that we performed, we'll talk about the implementation that took place, and then how the implementation translated into $1.2 million in savings. Let's jump right into it. So the company had been in business for 3 years, and everybody in the company had a purchase card, also known as a P card, which also meant that purchases were made on the spot as demand arrived. So there was no real accountability or approval process. Everybody was a buyer and also an approver, and there were no proper controls or oversight for purchases. So what did we do? Well, we ran a diagnostic of their procurement process, and this is what we found. First of all, the company had no policy, so there were no rules. There was no budget, there were no controls, there was no oversight. So this meant that pretty much it was the Wild West. There were no procedures, so this led to an efficient flow. This meant that there was no process from a requisition to an analysis, verification of budget, and then finally the approval, and then finally the purchase. The flow was very inefficient, and in many cases, purchases were delayed. And we're going to see how long, on average, they were delayed. There were many buyers. Everybody in the company was a buyer, so this meant loss of control. There were many vendors, which diluted leverage. In many cases, the company had the same service or product delivered by 3, 4, and even 5 different vendors. And there was no budgeting or reporting, which led naturally to overspending. If you don't have a constraint or a limit, then you're naturally going to overspend. So the implementation process took 75 days. We had a 2-week training so that everybody in the team was following the process, but also had their buy-in throughout the implementation to understand how this could impact their day-to-day and increase the amount of available time to do their actual jobs. In many cases, technicians, engineers were performing 2 roles as engineers or technicians and then also as buyers. This released a lot of their time, and they were very, very happy to follow the new protocol. So we centralized purchases by reducing the number of buyers from 28 to 3, which brought the company ownership. 3 owners of the purchasing process, 3 owners of the budget, 3 owners and gatekeepers of the company's money. Then we consolidated suppliers. We brought it down from 624 to 291, which brought the company control. With a lower amount of vendors, you can improve your relationships, but also increase your leverage with them. We consolidated SKUs. The company had a legacy of 13,000 SKUs from their inception, and they were only active with 3,000 SKUs, stock keeping units. So by reducing that and getting rid of that 10,000, unnecessary SKUs, the company gained visibility. They could analyze better the demand for those 3,000 throughout the year. We negotiated their contracts, so we extended the days of payables outstanding from 27 days to 76 days, which released cash flow. Now imagine you have an extra 49 days to make payments, and in that time, you're also selling, and you're also you can work with that money to reinvest in growth and make more sales or expand your markets before you get to pay your bills. We reduced the requisition to order cycle. This was what I mentioned earlier, from 12 days to only 1, which provided speed to the company, right? If you can bring inventory faster, it means you can produce faster. If you can produce faster, then you can sell faster. And if you can sell faster, then you can collect money faster. Overall, savings of $1.2 million. Now let's see how this was broken down. We run competitive bidding for fixed cost services, and that brought a savings of $394,000. Now, this is particularly useful for fixed cost services. Think your maintenance, your cleaning, your security, even some services like marketing and bookkeeping. There's a double effect here where by really studying the scope of your actual needs, you're able to narrow that scope and thus getting the most efficient amount of work you actually need before you go to the market and have several providers compete on price. This was especially useful when we were studying cleaning. The company had cleaning services happening 5 times a week. The office space doesn't get messy and if you skip a day. So we actually reduced that scope to only 3. So there was an immediate savings coming from a reduced scope. And then we went to the market and got the best possible price for cleaning services. We sourced vendors, and that reduced costs in the tune of $197,000 by finding competitors that offered better pricing. These were non-critical services, non-critical products that had no impact on production or efficiency. These were more standardized, homologated type services. Then, by managing contracts, we brought in $119,000 by reducing or eliminating the auto renewals, reducing the excessive licenses, and eliminating unused services that have been lingering in the company for a while. Then we fixed prices in the tune of $111,000 in savings because vendors are happy to fix their price as long as you can guarantee a volume. So what we did was we forecasted the demand for specific products or services, and then we reduced it a little downwards just to be extra safe that we were actually going to be able to guarantee those volumes in order to fix the price. Benefit of this on top of that is that you're not just fixing the price, but also securing your supply. Then we rationalized SKUs by eliminating the lower performing SKUs that the company sold, not the ones they were carrying in their inventory for assembly, but the ones they actually had as finished goods. By eliminating low profitability products and focusing the sales efforts from moving the sales team from selling those lower profitability products to higher profitability products, we brought in $95,000 in incremental gross profit. Then we had savings of $94,000 that came from a reduced credit card use and lines of credit. Now you have control, you have a budget, you don't need to go over your interest expenses. We optimized shipping by reducing the amount of shipments happening. We consolidated shipments. So in some cases, we identified that some products were being shipped every week, and they didn't need to be shipped every week. They needed to be shipped every 2 weeks or even every 4 weeks. So if you have a shipment go from paying 4 shipments a month to only 1, then you get some savings right away. That brought in $84,000 in savings from consolidated shipping. We saved $68,000 by not needing to hire the clerk that the company had scheduled to hire in order to serve as a liaison between inventory, purchasing, and the actual requisitions. So we didn't need to hire that spot, and that money was used for working capital inside of the company. And finally, we brought in $42,000 from for early payment discounts. This works particularly well when the company is long in cash. When you're short in cash, you want to tap into your net 30, net 60, or net 90. Overall, $1.2 million in savings. So if you're interested in having something like this and you're serious about controlling your spend, we perform a 100% free diagnostic of your procurement process that you get to keep in case you and your team want to implement it. But if you would like us to implement it for you, we run a 90-day implementation that has no upfront costs. Why? Because our service is based on the return on investment that we bring to you. If you don't get a return on investment on our service, you don't pay. We don't charge a retainer or hourly fees. We want to bring value to you first. So if you're interested in getting something like this implemented for your company and you want us to hear you out and learn a little bit about your business to see how we can be of service, we invite you to schedule a strategy call. I hope this case study serves you well, gives you some insight, and I hope to hear from you soon. Have a great rest of your day.